Missing still quite a few people. Where is everybody? I see a lot of good friends in the attendees. Oh, here's Tess.
Yeah.
Am I co-host?
Oh, you will be in a second. I've got to get this up and running, and then I'm going to make a co-host. Should be good. I'm going to make you host, Fred. And it should be recording. I think you're on your way. Got it?
I think we have Tess in the.
Here we go. I'll let her. I'll promote her. Okay, got Tess. Here we go. A lot of friendly faces here tonight. Okay, who else are we missing? Mark is excused. Of course, we have Lee. I guess it's just Lee, really, we're waiting for.
Yes, and Robert Chiavelli.
Oh, Bob's not here. Okay.
Nice haircut, Colby.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, the sides, it always grows out horizontally.
I'm going to get a haircut just like you.
You what? You have a haircut just like me?
I'm going to get a haircut just like you.
No. I think you should stick with what you got. You're doing pretty well.
Thank you.
Thanks for sending that email today. The good picture, great pictures, Tess, of the event.
Indeed. Yeah, we had a really good turnout at our cleanup on Saturday. The assembly member came out. We had 35 people at our cleanup.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And Edrin Nazarian was hauling trash with the best of them. So let's see. Oh, God.
Well, should we get started or should we wait for Lee and Bob?
I think Lee might be trying to get on. If you give him another second.
Should I call Bob?
Yeah, why not? Okay, let's see.
Hey, Bob. Can you hear me? Oh, we're on our meeting. I don't know if you're coming, but I just want to give you a call that we're here. Oh, terrific. Okay, we'll see you soon. Very good. I'll see you in a bit. Thanks. Okay, Bob is having some computer issues, but he'll be here shortly.
Maybe I should just forewarn people. I'm proposing that we do our minutes and then jump immediately to item 7.4, which is the council motion on homeless shelters in R1 and 2. I think, Tess, you said that you expect a lot of people who want to speak on that. So
Let's see. Hang on. I'm just making sure I've got the meeting ID correct here.
We have 6 members from the public so far, which is a very nice turnout.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about a lot, but certainly there's been some concern raised about this. So I agree that we jump forward to that. That would be good.
Okay.
I guess I'll use this time to make a little announcement myself.
Lee Jameson's here.
Okay. Here he is. Okay. We'll promote him to panelist. And now we just have Bob, who is coming. But Lee has to click accept the panelist. If you, Lee, can hear that. Anyway, I have a business a phone call to attend to tonight, and I don't know when it's coming in between now and 9 o'clock, and I will be away for about 5 to 15 minutes. And I'll announce myself when I go, but Ren can take the reins while I'm gone, but I just wanted to let you guys know I'm not leaving you. Just for a little bit. Okay, let's see, we have a hand raised. Lee, okay, Lee, I see your hand raised, and I'm promoting you to panelist. So you've got to accept that on your screen. Okay, there you go. I see you. Welcome, Lee. All right. Well, I guess we can get started. Bob will join us very shortly. We have a quorum, so I will call the meeting to order. The time is 6:38. And we have 7 members from the public, actually 6, because David Wheatley, you're listed twice. I don't know why, but 1, 2, 3. Actually, no, do we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? And we have 6 members from the public. Okay. And now we'll go to roll call and Ren Blight.
Good, I'm here.
Ren is here.
You had to think about it.
I had to think about it.
I had to unmute myself, but I was already unmuted.
I had to think about it too. Fred Iberry, here. Tess Taylor.
Here.
Here. Mark is excused. Bob Scabelli's coming. I'll mark him down when he gets here. Brandon. Brandon is here. Okay. Ron Babini.
Here.
Is here. Lee Jameson, who I know is here because I just let him in. And I guess
He's muted.
He's muted, Lee, but you're here. So put on your video or unmute your microphone. I'll mark you as here. Okay. So now we go to our minutes from last month. And do we have any discussion on the minutes?
I think Brandon had a question that he emailed Fred.
Okay, go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, I on the minutes at the end of the follow along. At the end, 6.7, it said that the city approved the Moore Park and Vineland project.
Mhm.
I don't remember that being discussed, but and I take notes, but I just don't remember that being discussed, and it wasn't on our agenda in
No.
May.
No, it
Can
wasn't.
you remind me? Do other people remember that, or did I?
No, you're right, Brandon. It was not discussed and it wasn't on the agenda. And I think that information came after the fact and we put it on there. I don't know.
So if that could just be.
Yeah, it has been in the past, but I don't believe it was discussed and certainly not. Yeah, I think Brandon is correct.
I think so
It'd be
too.
great to just talk about it during announcements, I suppose. And then if we want to talk about it more,
Okay.
we can have an agenda item in next meeting.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. All right, so I will put that in the announcements number 5. Vineland Moore Park, let me make a note. Okay. Check if Bob got here. No, don't see Bob yet. All right, so then here we go. Do we have a motion to approve or is there any more discussion on the minutes? No more hands? Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the GTLNC May 9th, 2022 Plum Committee minutes?
First from Tess.
Tess first,
Second.
Ren second. Okay. And we will call for a vote. Ren Blight.
Yes.
Yes. Mark is excused. Brandon.
Yes.
Yes. Fred, yes. Let me check if Bob is here. Let's see, Bob. No, no Bob yet. Okay, Ron Bedini.
Yes.
Yes. Tess Taylor
Yes.
and Lee Jameson.
Affirmative.
Affirmative.
I did.
Very good. Okay. All right. So I guess I'll mark Bob as what? Excused? Or what? Abstain? What?
As of right now, absent.
Yeah,
Absent?
don't mark him.
So, okay, so now we have 1, 2.
And we can make a note in the minutes when he does come on that he arrived at a particular time
Yeah, I agree.
to show that he,
Okay.
you know, when he starts to vote, why obviously then he's a voting member. But so he'll be initially absent, and then when he gets here and he starts voting on things, we need to show that he showed up.
Okay. Very good.
Voting prodigiously.
Very good. Okay, so now we have 600 for the minutes. And hold on, let me check. I have a hand up here. But it's not Bob. Okay, Lee Jameson has your hand up. Go ahead, Lee. Did you have a comment on the minutes?
It won't work for me.
Okay, I guess you're okay.
Yeah, well,
All right, I'm gonna mute you then.
can't
All right,
unmute it.
here we are. We're going to agenda
Fred,
item.
maybe check, you know,
Okay,
maybe
it's-
under Grant Baker, he keeps a
Here,
person.
all right, let me ask Grant Baker. Go ahead, Grant Baker. Is this Bob or is this Grant Baker?
Hello? Hello?
Yes,
Can you
Grant-
hear me?
Grant Baker. Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure I could be heard.
Okay, yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much. Okay,
That'll be it.
all right, thank you. All right, so that was not Bob. Okay,
Who's Bob?
oh, Bob is another board member we were expecting. He comes in on the attendees. I have to promote him.
Can I be Bob?
I wish. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna move on
I
to
wish too.
7.4. Do me a favor, Grant, please mute your microphone if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, are you talking to me, Grant, or another Grant?
Yes, you Grant.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Mute yourself, that would be great. Okay, now we're going on to 7.4 in new business, and I think I'm gonna hand it off to Tess. That would be, would that be okay with you, Tess?
Sure, although I think Ren drafted this CIS. Do we have that available? I think it's in the documents. So perhaps you could do a screen share. So as we're discussing it, the members of the public can see it. So
I can't screen share it at the moment. Fred, could you?
I think I can do it, yeah.
Okay, that'd be great. Let me just warm this up a little bit. The city council put together a motion to allow a wide range of homeless programs to be allowed by right in a variety of zones. And this was a while back. And now they want to extend it to R1 and R2 and some other kinds of zoning, which weren't included in the first action. And a number of neighborhood councils have already reacted with community impact statements, mostly just opposing this, although some of them support the idea of having churches and other related kinds of groups create programs for the homeless. And but I think the general sense is that in this motion is probably a kernel of a good idea, broadening the places where homeless programs might be considered. On the other hand, there's pretty much unanimous support to the idea that it has to have a local review and input, that it shouldn't just go through automatically, that these kinds of things, especially in R1, R2 kind of zoning, could have a real strong impact on a neighborhood, and not to have a neighborhood have the opportunity at least to comment is problematic. The city council has given themselves 45 days to review this, and I suspect it will be amended very strongly before it shows up for a formal final vote at council. But I think we want to track this, and we want to get everybody's input on it right away so that we can do our CIS along with the other neighborhood councils.
Duran, does that include development in that?
Well, yeah, it would, if they're building projects for the homeless, for example, on a church parking lot, there would be some construction and some development there. And it's hard to understand exactly what might happen because the language is pretty broad. So anybody could sort of show up with a project, get it to into building and safety and planning and get approval without ever having it be discussed in a broader setting. So I think we want to see that. Anyway, Fred, could you share this is, I wrote up a rough on this that
Yes.
that would be very much a first draft, and we can amend it as members of the committee and even as the input from the public seems to warrant.
Okay, one more second and I'll have it up on the screen. I had a hard time finding it. Hold on here. Okay.
All right, good.
Almost there. Okay, now.
Okay, so, and maybe, Ren, you want to read it?
Sure.
Okay, can you see
It's
it? Can you see it?
yeah, I can see it anyway. This is proposed CIS on council file number 22-0158, homeless shelters. And it says, while the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council generally supports the creation of additional homeless shelters across the city, it is the determination of the GTLNC that the above referenced city council motion is too broad and contains no opportunity for community input. We request that the city council amend this legislation to more carefully limit the type of properties and institutions that can utilize this zoning exception, and to allow local review and input proposed project submitted. So that's I hope a starting point for people. We can go on and have discussion.
So, if I may comment?
Sure.
All right, so thank you very much for doing this, Ren, for drafting this up. I think this entire proposal is misdirected and your CIS is well fashioned, but I think it should be much simpler, or could be much simpler, to simply say that we, the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council, do not support this proposal, period. And we can avoid a lot of time and discussion and perhaps conflict. There's no reason that we should support this right now. It puts a burden on our community, and I think on other communities, rather than where it belongs, which is placing people who don't have adequate places to live in areas and locales where the density is very, very low. And that at this moment is not the Greater Toluca Lake area. The density is incredibly high here. We don't want to make it worse, and we don't want to make conditions less livable than they already are for those who have created value here. I don't know that, we have to debate the subtleties. Certainly everybody wants to be supportive of homelessness and all of the resources that are brought to bear in order to help people, and no one more so than myself. But this proposal is misdirected. I think it's simply improper to use homelessness as a justification that ultimately has nothing to do with solving the homelessness problem. This is about, this has everything to do, I think, with opportunistic developers to create a less livable environment for the people who are already here. There's no basis for this. So I could go on. But I think it's axiomatic in society. Wherever you live, you should live where you can afford to live. Don't live above your means. And this is, to not have community input is, to me, just staggering. And one of the things about this motion that was so problematic when it first rose to the surface is that it was initially proposed to be on the properties of religious institutions, which is one thing. But then in another iteration of the motion of this proposal, the religious institutions, reference to religious institutions was removed, and that causes people not to trust in our government when it's proposed as one thing and then floated as completely another. The idea of having these shelters on religious institutions is one thing, but having them put in residential areas without any input whatsoever, I think is hugely problematic. And last but not least, this is all being done under the guise of a state of emergency. I want to know where this state of emergency is being defined, because it's being used to sort of sweep a lot of things along that I don't know necessarily should be swept along. So I think that we should have a very strong stance on this. Very simple, that the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council does not support this proposal, period. That's it.
Okay, we have Lee and Bob, and then we'll go to public comment. Lee Jameson, go ahead, unmute yourself. Lee, did you want to say something?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Go ahead, Lee, yes.
Okay, I'm against it because like Taylor said, it's not really, it's just giving room for wiggle whack for the developer. I want it straight no. Because I don't have personally a problem with those little bitty homes being built like in Laurel Canyon, but that gives too much room for the developer the way it's written up. So I'm against it.
Okay. Okay, Lee, thank you very much. Bob Scavelli, go ahead.
Yeah, good. First of all, I apologize for being late. My machine was giving me a lot of problems. But Ren, can you expand on this particular council file? What kind of homes, where, and what are they proposing?
It's there's not much meat to this, and it's they've talked about in the 45 days they're going to sort of flesh it out, but the reality is, at the way it's worded now, it's just very kind of undefined. And so I think there's a number of neighborhood councils have done it, exactly what Tess is talking about. They just come out and they flatly say, we don't like this, and, don't pass it. But I'd like us to give a little more direction to them. But I think they've got to come back with more input in terms of what they're actually looking at, and what they're proposing. So we don't have much background at this point about what, are we talking about more of the the small, little, 300 or 400 square foot units, or are we talking about group homes? Are we talking about people parking their cars on church parking lots and being able to use the bathrooms and other facilities at the church?
So then we really don't have
enough in mind, but none of them are spelled out here.
So we don't really have enough information then to make any kind of a decision. Do you have perhaps the wording on the motion for this council file?
Bob, if I may say, there's a link in the agenda to the proposal, to the length
Okay.
of the proposal.
I'll
Just
take
check
a
your
look.
agenda, okay?
May I speak? Fred?
Yes, go ahead, Brandon.
So I think this is, I don't think this is, I like the language. So if anything, I personally would not support the CIS, but if we were to provide anything, I think some background, some substance is necessary to provide for a CIS instead of just saying we don't support it. Because I like the first part of it, generally supports the creation of additional homeless shelters. But my read of it, I looked at the emotion. It says, you know, as Tess said, that there, in the motion's discussion, it talks about churches, synagogues, mosques, temples, and other properties owned by nonprofits that are eager to be a part of the solution, but are barred based on the location of their property. I don't see, though, Tess, any revision to that, because then, you know, the council motion that was moved and seconded by 4 of the members of the city council mentioned the religious properties. Then in the homeless and poverty committee, the subcommittee of the Planning and Land Use Management Committee, their report, it's recommending council action to instruct city planning to report in 45 days to, you know, provide, it looks like, zoning language, and then instruct planning to do another similar thing, and then with the assistance of city attorney. I would like to see, we're talking about, maybe I can.
Well, let's make sure we're talking about the same version, okay? What I'm looking at, Brandon, is the motion that has the votes of the Homelessness and Poverty Committee and the votes of the Planning and Land Use Management Committee on May 10th, 2022. That's the most current version that I have. And the reference to religious institutions that was in the original motion is no longer here that I can see. And that link is in the agenda.
Right. So I'm not saying that I don't think it's been taken out. I think, yeah, maybe the discussion, because a lot of motions have a lot of background information.
Okay.
Can the host disabled participant sharing screen, can I share my screen?
Yeah.
Do you have a more current version of this?
Yeah, I was just going to show you what I'm looking at.
And what's the date of your document?
I think it's the same thing. At the end of the.
And for viewers here today, there's a link to this council file in the agenda.
So this is the motion.
Okay.
And it talks about churches, synagogues, blah, blah, blah. It says to allow for temporary shelters of homeless on city-owned and leased properties. So there's that.
Okay.
And allow for the establishment of religious institutions. Therefore, I move to be allow for, they want this to be defined, shelters for the homeless and other forms of interim housing to be established and operated on properties outside of X, Y, and Z zone that I'm assuming is already permissible. Homeless shelters are already permitted under these zones, and to report back in 45 days with those, with that language. So then I see, you know, here's the council file information. There was all these activities of like community impact statements, the original motion.
Okay. Well, nobody is
on this, which is the April 10th, or excuse me, May 10th. and it has the votes by
Yes.
the members of the different committees. So it's going to city council now, official, non-official until council action.
Mhm.
Anyway, I just I would like to see. I'm grateful that we have a CIS, but I would like to see instead of joining the bandwagon with these other neighborhood councils, I would like to know what Kokorian has to say. Kokorian's not on one of these committees. I want to know what his leaning is. Maybe Kokorian's office can provide more information. And I'm asking these questions to maybe we can get an answer before, presumably that this would be passed in this committee and go to the board. Then the board would have that information. So then you're more, because I heard a lot of we don't know of what will happen. I don't want to say no to providing more flexibility because clearly it sounds like there's a need to make more opportunities for housing people on the street. So I think that was, is this the same thing that you saw, Tess?
Yes, that is what is linked to the agenda right now. So may I respond? Brandon?
Sure.
Okay, so thank you. That is very thoughtful. And yes, we need more information. So I will say it's rather uncomfortable when one of the initial thrusts of the motion doesn't appear in a summary, okay, which is the religious institutions. And you were correct. I think we should ask Krikorian about this, and maybe we should get some more information. But the way this has been drafted is far too broad, in my opinion. And there are plenty of city properties available in excess of 1.7 million square feet, according to Ron Galperin, the LA City Controller, who did an assessment of the properties that are available. So there is no basis for jamming more housing, especially if we don't know what kind of housing or what configuration it will take, or any configuration for that matter, tiny homes, permanent shelters, temporary shelters, until the land that is available, the facilities that are available are put to use. Otherwise, there's no basis for it. And I would point out further, this will be discussed later on the agenda. There's a very, very good bill being proposed now, SB 15, that was presented by Senator Portantino about housing development and incentives and rezoning of idle retail stores. So there are plenty of options available before we start bringing stuff into R1 and R2 and creating more density where we're already built out. So, but I would propose, Brandon, that you ask Krikorian. And certainly I'm in touch with his people all the time, and I will do the same. And let's see where he stands.
Sure, I'll do that. The only thing I would like to say else is that I see cities across this region in the state allow for zoning of homeless shelters in industrial zones and out in the outskirts, away from jobs and away from schools and such. Tess, I know people who have formerly been on the street, and there's a whole host of people who have varying economic problems, and of course there's also varying mental health and drug problems. But allowing for noting the city controller's report, it is, we don't know, you're not citing where these specific.
There's a map on his website.
Sure, but I'm just and then you're conflating also just housing for all different types of things. I want to know at the end of the day what the language is. There will be another opportunity when this gets down to the city council, and we'll be able to see what the council will see before they make an action. And I just think that would be my course of action. So,
Okay, well, but this is moving pretty quickly and we don't always know what's going on. In my opinion, we should oppose it as currently drafted, unless amended. And we can get more information in the meantime, and we can always send a follow-up CIS. And for what it's worth, I think the CISs, which for those listening, a CIS is a community impact statement. That is something that our neighborhood council has the ability to do, to make an opinion of voted on by the council, a position of the community that we support this or we oppose that. The CIS, I recommend that we oppose this as until or unless amended. And for what it's worth, the CISs are currently running about 20-1 on this city council file in opposition to the motion as currently drafted. So that's all from me.
Okay, thank you very much, Tess. Let's go to the public now. And Jonathan Gregory has been patiently waiting. He's first, and then we'll go to David Wheatley. And I will ask Jonathan to unmute and then give you 3 minutes. And we want to talk to you also about your other email, Jonathan, separately, but let's just go ahead and talk about this for now. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Thank you very much. When I hear you debate this important matter, because it's something that the city council is doing, so I think it's more than deserving of the attention right now. And I also think time is of the essence. So you don't have forever to develop your CIS and send it in, because you never know what they're going to do at city council. What I would like you to know about this is when I hear things coming from city council having to do with the homeless problem, the social problems living out in the streets, what I want to be hearing, as opposed to what I don't want to hear, what I want to be hearing is, where are the detox facilities being built? Where are the psychiatric centers being built? Where are the medical centers? Where are the shelters? Where are the affordable homes? And where are the available prisons? Because the people who are out on the streets don't deserve to be laying around in the streets. And I don't believe they deserve to be thrown into shelters in the back of people's homes, where they'll be confronted with a perpetuation of the same lifestyle, which is not clean and it isn't healthy. And it's rather homeless, trying to get somebody out of that state of life while they're surrounded by it. There's also other dimensions. These are the reasons people think about leaving Los Angeles. When this kind of ridiculousness starts to become normalized, this conversation doesn't even consider what it's like for a rental property owner to suddenly have to insure a property when you can't even tell the insurance company who the hell is living in your property. That's part of the insurancing program, that you have to declare what your risks are. So look what this entails. This is misery perpetuated on homeless people. You can say it keeps them proximate to their connectivity. No, it allows opportunism, and it lets city council get away with not solving the problem, because I do not regard homelessness as normal. This is an aberration and it needs to be cleaned up. All people deserve to live with integrity. And what I see in those streets is disgusting and unthinkable. And any measure to perpetuate it by moving it into people's backyards or onto synagogues, even if the property owners are complacent with this, not realizing how it's being perpetuated, I believe you should be speaking very loud, just like other neighborhood councils are, and saying, no, this is not a satisfactory course forward for the people of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Okay, right at 3 minutes, Jonathan. You must have your own stopwatch. It was very nice.
I just ran out of information.
Well, you're right on the money. I like that. Okay, so here we go. David Wheatley, you're next, and I'm gonna ask you to unmute. And when you speak, I'll start your time.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll start with the usual question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you. Nice to see all of you. And yeah, the city council is up to their old tricks. Yeah, I'm in the arts. I go to therapy for maintenance just because I'm in the arts. So I ran this by my therapist, whose name is Mike, and said, is there really a crisis? He said no. And he's a professional, PhD, works in this field. He says anybody that needs housing, especially women and children, can get it. So when they say housing crisis, this is designed to inflame the community. You know, bleeding heart types for people that are like really sympathetic and empathetic to the plights of others. And I admire that, but boy, the way they work it from city council, virtue signaling this stuff is so misleading. It's really appalling. Also, I don't think that the people who are generally more affluent, who live in R1 and R2, are any better at dealing with the homeless so-called crisis than anybody else. We put one right in the middle of Toluca Lake on a street, you know, Bloomfield or something like that. And we have mentally ill people walking up and down the street, howling at the moon in the middle of the night. The people that live in these R1 homes, they don't know what to do with these people either. So are we thinking that if we have so-called normal people living in houses around, that it's going to influence the people in the housing in these homeless shelters? I just don't see it happening. And today I saw a lady walking down next to the parked cars, yelling at the traffic. Same thing happened yesterday. And this isn't about criminalizing poverty. This is about behavior, not whether somebody's poor or not. There are lots of people who are in poverty that don't break the law like these folks do. So I think what Tess is saying as far as the CIS right away, absolutely. And when the city council says, well, we'll make it temporary for now, and then we'll bring it back. And now they're asking for zoning recommendations. This is the way they do it. They come up with a bad idea and everybody says, well, fine, they only want this. They only want this. It'll only be synagogues and mosques and churches. So it's got to be fine. Or it's only temporary. So it's got to be fine. This is what they do. They get that in there, lull the public into a state of complacency, and then jam it through at the last minute and get it approved and voted on by shaming the people who vote no. We absolutely need to get this CIS in right away based on the way it reads now. And let's put a stop to this and add our name to the list of everybody else who opposes this, who has a sense to do so, and force them to find other options that are more viable. Thanks.
Boy, David, you must have a stopwatch too, right at 3 minutes. Good to hear your voice as always. And next we will go to Jeff Hardwick. I'll ask you to unmute and start your time when you start speaking.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening. Yes, I think that the committee should oppose this particular CIS. Shelters do not belong in residential areas. Many of the unhoused populations suffer from drug addiction and various other pathologies, and that sort of situation would start spilling over into the local community. At Sportsman's Lodge, they had bridge housing for a while. I know crime and drug use went up considerably as a result of that experiment. It will encourage migration from other areas. And further, right now under LAMC 4118, any kind of social service provider to the homeless or shelter, people cannot camp or hang out within 1,000 feet, but only if said institution is designated a special enforcement zone by the council member. And it's very curious that council members Rahman and Bonin have completely opposed any kind of special enforcement zones. So if anything like that were to happen, I think Krikorian should step forward and say, yes, I will designate said areas as special enforcement zones as a threshold issue. Otherwise, the LAPD will be unable to cite people for not being there illegally. Lastly, there are other properties that are available. The city of LA has many unused properties that are better suited for this population. The tiny homes on Chandler in NoHo, it's in an industrial area, so it's not in an R1, R2 situation like it is here. And my last point will be, I don't think the committee or the neighborhood council should wait for Krikorian's input. You know, it's incumbent upon a neighborhood council to advise a council member about the community's view on things, because the neighborhood council is the closest to the community. So I don't think the neighborhood council should wait around for Kukorian's input. It'd be nice to get it, but we should not wait around for that sort of thing. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeff. And now we go to Tess.
Thank you, Fred. I love your cat. So I want to ask, and this is a question I don't know the answer to, but I'm going to research it. The state of emergency has been referred to in a number of city council actions and in state legislation, state of emergency. And it enables the doing of things that would not ordinarily be doable, at least not with such speed. So I want to ask if anyone knows where this state of emergency is defined. Ren, I saw you nod, perhaps you know. And number two, I want to add, it's not homelessness per se that is so much the problem, it's the impacts of it. The impacts, the trash, the blight, the things of that nature. And I was out this Saturday and I was joined by Assembly Member Edrin Nazarian and 35 volunteers, members of West Toluca Lake, my community, cleaning up. We cleared literally cubic tons of trash, all right? 40 or 50 huge bags because of encampments along Riverside. And I've gotten to know the people the homeless there. I've gotten to know them by name, and I've talked to them about what it is they need, and I'm trying to connect them with the resources that they need, which are, I know, available. So it's just a matter of getting point A to point B. But I just want to emphasize it's the impacts. It's having to put up with the trash and the disruptions that many people cause, not all, certainly. And that is where the largest problem lies. So Ren, I saw you nod your head. Do you know where the state of emergency is defined, city, state, or otherwise? Please. You need to unmute.
There we go. Yeah, I don't know where they're referencing specifically on this, but I know over the years it's been used when something pops up where they, because it's an emergency, they're allowed to forego certain requirements.
Yes.
Publishing it and getting it out to the public and getting input and all of that. In this particular case, the homeless emergency has been going on for whatever, 10, 20 years. So I don't think anybody has any real sense that that at this late date, it's, we're suddenly discovering an emergency here.
Yeah.
It may be an opportunity if the city council, I think, gets this right, but they've got a lot of work here to hone this into something where people can agree with it. And I think, and one of the things that is in our CIS, and I think almost all the CISs, is that there's got to be whatever they're proposing, whatever specific project gets proposed, I think has to get public input and, well, at least exposure, but public input and an opportunity to really impact it. There's all kinds of proposals for homeless projects, and they run the gamut from things that have already been proved they don't work, certain kinds of shelters and certain kinds of aggregations of people with severe problems. Those things have to be handled very specifically. The other problems for the homeless, I mean, there's some homeless people who really, from all perspectives, they really look like they're okay and normal people, and they are, except that for a moment, they were living with somebody and that person couldn't have them around any longer. So now they have to find somebody else to live with. So they're in their car for a week. And those people are counted as homeless as well. So there's a wide range of, of needs in the homeless community. And to deal with it, we've got to attack it from a whole lot of angles. And I wouldn't rule out even our local churches and so forth to take some small part of that.
No, I wouldn't either.
and deal with it. So I wouldn't say automatically that we shouldn't take some part of the problem. We just don't want focusing people here who really, we don't have the resources locally, and they're not providing the resources in the program to deal with the problem. I think that's something the council has to come to grips with. And we don't, we need to be able to look over the shoulder on these projects and see what they're.
I think a community input is vital, and there's a documentary about this phenomenon, Ren. It's called The Hidden Homeless. The people who appear, who you wouldn't guess are homeless, but who actually are living in their car, showering at the gym, etc. And those people are the most likely, I think, to get back on their feet. Fred, it looks like we have another member of the public with a comment or a question.
So Steve Wagner, go ahead. And you have 3 minutes.
Great, thank you. I'm assuming you can all hear me okay.
Yes.
So I probably won't approach the 3-minute mark, but I do agree with a lot of the opinions that have been offered here tonight. I do agree. It sounds like the language as written, I think could be tightened up considerably, and I'm probably one of those people that is a little more suspect of what city council would hold important to their constituents as far as giving them an inch and having them take a mile. So at this point, I agree it's a complicated issue to deal with. I don't think it should be put, the responsibility should be put on, the R1 and R2 zoning for that. But I think it's probably important at this point to get more information. But in the meantime, I think sending a strong message to city council that I think they need to be a little bit more specific about what they're proposing, and to make sure that the public is definitely a part of that conversation. So I think that's basically it, but I'm very skeptical about what is being proposed at this point, and as written, I would definitely not support what is being proposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
Let's go to Brandon.
I just want to. We don't know what is being proposed. We don't know what the language is. It'll be reported back in 45 days to provide it will be a broader scope. And if there's a concern about R1 and R2 zoning specifically, then let's narrow down the CIS to that. If we want to ensure that religious institutions are carried forward into the language, like as presented in the motion, then let's specify that. I just don't want to just be another no, and without, because I showed you on my screen, it says instruct city planning with the assistance of other relevant departments to report back in 45 days to amend sections, and it has 3 different sections, another 4 different sections in the municipal code that would be revised. We don't know the language, and I don't think we can make a decision based on that. So I'm happy. I'm drafting an email to Corian's office right now, and hopefully we can get more information later. But yeah.
Well, I would make a motion that we amend the language that Ren Blight has provided, and we vote on it now. I personally think the sooner we move, the better. We can always file another CIS and support something if it's been amended in a manner that we agree with, and we can give direction. But personally, I think the simpler it is, the better right now. And most respectfully, Brandon, I've seen CISs filed that just say we simply oppose or support without any background. Sure, it's nice to have extra reasons why, especially what we would want in an amendment, specifically community input, And I think one of the callers, one of the members of the public mentioned having a map or I'd like to know where all the shelters are now, where all of the psych and medical centers are now. It would be good to know that, because that is not known by me. I do know several in the immediate vicinity, but that has to have some bearing as well. So I would move that we revise the language now, make it simpler, and then vote on it.
So the language was not in the meeting documents. Can someone pull it up again?
I think it is. Isn't it in the meeting documents?
No.
Did you include it in the meeting documents, Ren?
Thought so. This is what I pulled up earlier on the screen.
Actually, it was emailed to us as well, Brandon. So
emailed out to all the committee. Should have been.
yeah, it was.
Sorry about that. Sorry. Oops.
Fred, could you pull it back up on screen again, just so?
My little helpers here.
Maybe your technical assistant there can help you.
Oh yeah. Okay, let me pull it back up here. 1 second. And
I will say, while Fred is pulling it up, the Los Angeles Municipal Code has to mean something, and the municipal code is there for a reason. It's to have the minimum acceptable standard. And when we keep adjusting zoning like this, then it causes it essentially renders the LA Municipal Code meaningless when there's an exception to everything at any. I find that we need to try to keep the integrity of the code. It's there for a reason. It's established. It's an established thing that I don't want to see exceptions to it all the time. And that's just been par for the course with this city council and this LA city planning office. It's just remarkable to me how there's spot zoning at every opportunity. It's not right. Anyway, so there's the CIS. Fred or Ren, why don't you read it one more time?
Okay,
I would rather.
While the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council generally supports the creation of additional homeless shelters across the city, the determination of the GTLNC that the above referenced city council motion is too broad and contains no opportunity for community input. We request that the city council amend this legislation to more carefully limit the types of properties and institutions that can utilize this zoning exception and to allow local review and input into any proposed project submitted. One comment, by the way, Tess, I think, at least in the past, the whole CIS process was really kind of set up for neighborhood councils to impact the conversation around motion, not to just simply say, we support it or we oppose it. And I know there's some neighborhood councils that simply, their CIS basically says we oppose this piece of legislation, but without some hint as to where the neighborhood council is coming from and what their thinking is, it's not very useful. So I would.
That's fine. I'm perfectly okay with this language. I just think simple is better. And if they want to know what we're thinking, this, I think, accomplishes it. So I would move that we vote on this now or discuss amendments that anyone may wish to make to it. How would you like to proceed?
Well, I'd like us to go ahead and get whatever, if there's some specific language changes that people want to see, we should that and then go ahead and vote on. I'd like to see us go ahead and put this in now because we can always amend it either before or after the 45 days if the council comes back with further, and I know they will, further, additional language and amendments to this, then we'll have another opportunity to comment on it.
Yeah, I agree that we should put it in now. Just a technical question, Fred, are you able to edit and add or subtract language? Is this a Word document that you can work with now as we make any possible adjustments? Or does it need to be in a Word file?
This is this is just
You can open with Google Docs and the formatting might change, but if you press in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, if you're able to make,
I see. Oh, open with Google Docs. I see what you mean. Okay, here we go.
yeah, if you're able to make changes while we're discussing it, then we can have something perhaps to vote on.
Got it. Okay.
Looks like Ron Babini has a question.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Ron.
Sorry, forgot to unmute. I prefer Tessa's original motion, but since people seem to want to have something to say, I want to change the second to last line where it says to allow local review to say require local review.
Good, Ron, good catch.
Okay.
To require.
Okay.
And I think we might add the stakeholder comment. We'd like to see let me see. I was taking some notes. Hold on here. To see perhaps a list of where the current, where are the current facilities located? And, what kind of, we don't want to get too complicated with the CIS, but just sort of as an aside, what's working and what isn't? You're
going beyond the scope. I
know that. I realize that, Brandon, but I think that's a factor that will need to be discussed at some point. What is working and what isn't? We don't just want to thrust things out there that have no or little or no basis for, no success.
So I suggest that we add a second at the end of this CIS. We say we request the staff report include a list of existing homeless shelters and that currently exist within the city, I guess.
Yeah, I think that would be good. Where are the current, detox, psych, affordable housing, medical shelters?
This is a discussion about, okay, but I'm just.
Okay, yeah, so.
Amending the definition or the permitting of homeless shelters, quote unquote homeless shelters as defined in the municipal code to be allowed in different zones. So I think requesting a list of that would be, this is great. I appreciate.
Okay, yeah, we requested a staff. Sorry, go ahead.
My request would be, to Tessa's point that the motion included the religious institutions and that it wasn't included in the report. So I'm thinking the second to last sentence can be added something in there. We request to amend the legislation to properties and institutions. Or we just, do folks agree that, there's this thing where churches want to utilize their land to build homeless shelters, and that's the nexus for the reason why we have this motion, as said in the beginning of this motion. Mm-hmm. Do people support that? Because I support that. I think that churches currently, depending on what the zoning is for those religious institutions, they're not allowed to be able to build these varying levels of housing.
I would support that with conditions. Like, I would want to know where it is. I don't want blank.
Well, I mean, the second to last sentence asks for local review and input.
Yes. Well,
so if someone could help me, maybe just
But, oops.
Maybe the first sentence where it says is too broad and contains no opportunity for community input. Maybe a sentence after that, we say we request the legislation puts an emphasis on religious institutions instead of, so I'll let you.
Okay, so
After input, just see, how about you hear what I have? So after input, another sentence after community input, Fred. Sorry, it's in the middle of the.
Oh yeah, okay, right here, okay. Yeah,
We request the city council oh,
can you add that, Fred? What Brandon is suggesting?
it's already here. You may type it
yeah,
again.
it'll be a repeat of it, the same sentence, but I just, instead of adding on to it.
I'll type it again.
Yeah, thank you. We request the city council that changes to the municipal code are not in R1 and R2 zoning, and specify or emphasize on religious institutions, or emphasize do you know what I'm talking about, Tess? Like,
Okay, let me have a crack at this. Okay, we request that the add LA City Council, even though that's clear, Fred, I think an abundance of clarity is good. We request that the LA City Council we request, okay.
Changes.
We request of the LA City Council that any changes to the LA Municipal Code, and M and C should be capital because it is a proper, yeah, LA Municipal Code, not be in R1 and R2 zones, comma, rather on properties owned by religious institutions.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, okay, sure. And then I would say, because of the city council meant to that may limit the type of properties. Yeah, I mean, this is very broad and it's good. I wish it were stronger and more specific. We request that the city council amend this legislation to more carefully limit the type of properties and institutions that may utilize this zoning exception. Can you change the word can to may, Fred? And the third line from the bottom, that may utilize this zoning exception. There we go. And to require local review and input. We request that a staff report from, I think both planning and land use and the homelessness and poverty committees include a list of the homeless shelters that currently exist in the city.
I'm sorry, but technically it already went through homeless and poverty and planning and land use. It's going to the city council. So I think it's just a staff report for the city council.
Okay, all right, that's fine. We requested a staff.
I think as is fine.
Okay, we requested a staff report include a list of homeless shelters and their locations, okay, that currently exist and or are proposed, okay, are proposed in the city of Los Angeles. How do people feel about that?
We have a couple of people raising their hands here
Okay.
in the city of Los Angeles. Let's go to Ron first.
Yes, what was, oh, yes. In the count of LA Municipal Code, not, the word not, and B in R1 and R2, can we make that all caps so it's emphasized,
Okay, not.
all caps?
Like that.
That's great.
Okay. All right, now we have David Wheatley has his hand up. Go ahead, David.
Thank you. I appreciate the level of deliberation going into this. The fact that homelessness already dealt with this or any other committee does not prevent the CIS from asking for lists that have already been considered by these other committees. We can't be writing CISs to every single committee in the city, especially when they're up to no good like this. The other part is, yeah, not just homeless facilities, but mental health places. Let's expand that to everything where anybody is providing services to homeless people. Let's have all those and the addresses, ideally a map, so we know actually what's been going on. And as far as religious institutions, eager to do this. Where's the list of these organizations that are eager to do this, and how eager are they? Are they willing to pay for it? And also, a lot of people buy their properties next to churches and synagogues and mosques because they expect these places to stay basically the same. So now it turns out, according to this, that these places are not going to be the same. They're going to get the kind of methadone clinics and other types of facilities where homeless people are going to be walking around in the middle of the night baying at the moon. And these neighbors are going to be affected. Not everybody who's a neighbor of a church, as a broader category, supports this kind of thing. So this, keep going on this. Get rid of, no, it's not okay to have this in religious institutions or their properties. All this stuff needs to be dealt with on an individual basis. And let's keep the promises we've made to local residents that things will be the same as what they bought into. Thanks.
Okay, very good. Jonathan, you have your hand raised. You want to say something quickly, Jonathan? Go ahead.
Thanks. I have a suggestion for abbreviating what you're saying. Okay, your first sentence is, while the Greater Toluca Lake generally supports the creation of blah, blah, blah. You could simply say Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council supports the right to shelter, period. Then you pick it up. The Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council opposes this motion as, and then you continue on with what you wish to say.
Okay, that's.
You need to have the word oppose. You're not saying what you're doing if you don't use the word oppose as currently written. Thanks.
Okay. Rand and Tess, you tell me.
Okay, while the Greater Toluca Lake generally, Jonathan, I only caught half of that.
Okay. Supports the right to shelter, period.
Supports the right to shelter.
Period.
Okay.
Okay.
Period. Okay. And then
right where it says determination of the, get rid of determination of the, and everything before it.
Yeah. GLT opposes
Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council opposes this motion as presently written.
Okay.
Okay, and then you can go on to say what you wish to say. Okay.
We feel the above reference is too broad, yada yada. Yeah.
No feel.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, the above reference city motion.
The motion as presently written.
Yeah, as presently written is too broad.
You don't need it.
Okay. All right. I think I can live with that. Are there other comments?
You don't need to say generally either. Generally means nothing.
Hey, this is great. Some of your bill, Jonathan. Okay, so we have another comment. Go ahead, Deborah.
Hi, everyone. I've been listening. I just have a few comments. I don't agree with building shelters in a residential area or on any religious property. I don't think it's fair for people that want to go to church or the synagogue or wherever to have to deal with the homelessness issue. Also, when people purchase their homes, they purchase their homes, because they want it to be quiet or whatever it is. We shouldn't have to deal with that issue. The city already has many programs. I'm a property owner. I already deal with people with vouchers, women and children who have been, let's say, abused. They get their vouchers for housing. There is no, how do you say it? There is enough housing for these homeless people. And from the people that I've rented to, there was one guy who is homeless or who was homeless, and on Venice, and he even says, people want to stay homeless because they don't want to have to deal with listening or following rules or anything like that. And they want to continue to do their drugs, and they do have mental issues. So these things are not going to cause a problem. They're only going to cause a problem for us. And I don't think it's fair, period.
Deborah, do you have any opinion on the motion as written or the CIS as we've drafted it?
I think you guys should remove religious, whatever it says, I don't think they should even be able to build where churches and synagogues and mosques are. They shouldn't have to. There's a lot of city property where they can build their own shelters over there. They don't have to be coming into residential areas.
Please remove that, Fred.
Wait a second. Let me just clarify something. The way I understand this motion to be written and intended, at least, is that the religious institutions would propose themselves to put their programs and so forth, develop their property. It wouldn't be the city coming in and putting something on the parking lot at the church without the church actually initiating it and being.
Yes, I understand that. But my thing is that, and I'm sure the church is going to be paid for all of this. So.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, no.
Well,
Okay, well, in my opinion, all of this is to destroy, let's say, residential areas, period. You might not agree with me, but that's how I see it. They're trying to force this on us.
Yeah, Deborah, I'm very much in favor of upholding the zoning integrity. But Ren, I believe this motion, this proposal by the city council is to change the zoning of religious institutions to enable this. I mean, my very strong preference would be for this not to be on religious institutions either. And I think we should take that out of the language. So Fred, Ren, your thoughts on that, taking out the religious institutions?
Can we get one more comment? Actually,
sure.
Sean,
go ahead.
Sean, go ahead, please.
Hey guys, it's Sean. I just wanted to touch base because I have a little bit more. I've got a little bit more to this. I have a church that's right around the corner for me, and ever since they started taking in and allowing like a soup kitchen situation, we've had a lot of homeless in our neighborhood that will throw all of their trash out our neighborhood. We've gone to the church and asked them to please police this a little bit more. It's great that they want to help the homeless. I have no problem with that. The problem is now that they started doing that, we've had more homeless kind of congregate in the area and wait for their once a week meal. And it's created a lot more of this transient population in the area. The church doesn't police around the neighborhood to clean up the area. And mostly churches are in residential areas. If you want to put it in a commercial area, like Tess said, there was an opportunity to maybe take unused commercial property. Great idea. Or like not industrial, but like the commercial property. Great idea. But to have them in the churches specifically, I see this firsthand We have people wandering on my property all the time. And so I think you guys, you know, Brandon, God love you. I appreciate that what you want to do, but right now, this is the way it's written is just, it's not defined well enough to be able to do it. And I agree with Tess. I don't think we should have it in residential or church or religious facilities. They're all in residential neighborhoods. That's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah, I propose we remove that about the religious institutions. And so I'm interested to hear what the rest of the committee thinks.
Jonathan has a comment. Or you put
It's
your hand
having
up.
to do with religion. I want to remind everyone that it applies to me that wherever people go and choose to worship, there are very difficult situations for safety. And this kind of stupidity of City Hall getting involved in things that they have absolutely no business in, like our municipal, they want to change the municipal code, like Tess said, that's one thing. This is one exception after another. When it has to do with religion, hands off. It's really hard to keep people safe. Thanks.
I agree.
Okay, well, I just pushed the buttons. So you tell me what you want to do and I'll do it.
Fred, how do you feel about, well, actually, you're the co-chair. You and Ren maybe go last. It looks like Sean has another comment.
Yes, he does. Go ahead, Sean.
All right. So, and this is just in the effort to kind of help you guys move this along, because everyone's got an opinion, which is great. Perhaps when you guys have that opinion of what to do or not to do, maybe you guys should, as a committee, kind of decide whether or not to move forward with that specific comment. Because if we keep going back and forth, you guys are going to never get the CIS done. Perhaps maybe with the idea of like, okay, specifically on the topic of the religion, do we want to take that portion out and move that portion in? And then if you guys as a committee decide what you guys want to do, then you guys can kind of hammer this out and knock this out of the park.
I say we take it out.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, just take out that that particular rather than on, that everything after rather on, and
Yeah, cannot be an R1 and R zones.
On Bob, what do you think?
I say yes, take it out.
All right, Bob. You're muted.
What do you think, Bob? Leave or stay or go? Bob's having some computer problems. I don't know if he's here.
How about Lee? Is Lee still with us?
Yeah, actually, Lee's over here. He went back to the attendee. Hold on a minute. Okay, Lee, can you? What do you think?
I read you. Do you read me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. My concern isn't so much this church, it's just development, period. I don't have a problem with if it's in the parking lot of a church being like those mini houses on Flower Canyon, the 170. But any development has got to go. And the way that's written up is very shady to where the developer and the people can get around different loopholes.
So, Lee, the question is, do you want the inclusion of building on religious properties of religious institutions included in this statement or not? Yes or no?
No.
Okay.
All right, well, that's the majority right there.
Okay.
So
I would, yeah, I mean, then let's take it out, and I move, unless there are further comments, that we vote and that we take this to the council. All right. Are there any other comments that you see, Fred? I don't know. All right.
let's go ahead and vote on it.
Okay. So Ren, since
no comments.
you're the original author, I make a motion that we take this to a vote. Who first?
I'll first it.
Okay, Ron first, Ren seconds. Ren, would you be so kind and read the newly amended community impact statement into the record?
Okay. While the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council supports the right to shelter, I think we should say the GTLNC opposes this motion as presently written.
Yes, and make that in comma after shelter, Fred. And because it's a run-on sentence right now.
There we go.
Good.
Yeah, the GTLNC opposes this motion as presently written. The above referenced city council motion is too broad and contains no opportunity for community input. We request of the LA City Council that any changes to the LA Municipal Code not be in R1 and R2 zones. We request that the City Council amend this legislation to more carefully limit the type of properties and institutions that may utilize this zoning exception, and to require local review and input into any proposed projects submitted. We request that a staff report include a list of homeless shelters and their locations that currently exist and/or are proposed in the city of Los Angeles. Okay, I want to mention, by the way, that this is going to the full GTLNC, and they might further wordsmith or even amend it. So
I would just delete one word that's not necessary. Fred, third line from the bottom, submitted. I don't think that's necessary. So shall we vote?
Okay.
All right.
Ren, how do you vote?
yes.
Yes. Fred, yes. Tess?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Bob? Oh gosh. I don't know. Bob, if you can maybe text me. I don't know. I know you're on a tablet. I don't know if you can. I don't think Bob has audio. But so anyway, Lee?
Affirmative.
Affirmative, yes. And Brandon?
No.
Brandon, no. Okay, and for Bob, what should I do? Just abstain? Nothing?
Call him.
Call him? Should I
Well-
call? I can call him.
Yes, call him. Put him on speaker.
Okay.
That's an idea.
Hey.
Yeah, Fred, I'm struggling.
That's okay. No, you're on speakerphone. We're just getting your vote for this motion. Yes or no, abstain?
Oh, I'm a no.
You're a no. Okay, thanks, Bob.
And I'll tell you why, because the motion before the city council is nothing more than a recommendation, and I'm sure they'll pass it unanimously. You should wait until city planning comes back with their recommendations and then issue a CIS rather, recommendations. But I don't think this is the time to a CIS. That's why I'm
Does he understand the yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Please.
Okay, it's a no, but it will still go to GTLNC. So it's it's a preponderance of yes on our committee, so it will go forward.
Okay.
Now 5 yeses, 2 noes. Okay.
Six yeses. Oh, wait, Bob a no or a yes?
Bob was a no.
Was a no.
Oh, okay, I apologize.
5 yeses and 2 nos.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, let's move on, go back on our agenda, back to public comment. And I want to just mention that I got a email with a lot of information. Let me grab it here. About along the freeway, Caltrans and its maintenance of our freeway on and off ramps. And I'd like to give Jonathan Gregory more than 3 minutes to talk about his proposal and what he'd like us to do to implement it. Jonathan, you want to open up public comment with your proposal?
Brent, can you help me along? I'm not understanding the subject. Tell me what it is.
I'm looking through my paperwork here to find what you had sent. Oh, here it is. You had sent back Monday, June 13th, well, today, I guess, a proposal to go to Caltrans to put pressure on them to do a much better maintenance along the off ramps on the 170 freeway and going up the 110. And you had 5 particular locations. So I wanted to give you some time to make that proposal and have us talk about it.
Got it.
Yeah, maybe, Jonathan, if you could just summarize it in a few words for members of the public and the folks here who did not receive a copy of it, that would be good to start.
That's what I'll do, is I'll only speak generally and give a suggestion as to how a neighborhood council might take it on. Let's just start with what the problem is, because I have a feeling no one will have trouble wrapping their brain around that. If you look around Greater Toluca Lake, I would call it an artery of sewage. Talking about Caltrans properties, they're just awful. With that said, I don't want to spend any time talking about how it's awful. It's littered, filthy, unkept. Next step is why. Why is it like this? And then when you delve into that question, you first learn that the governor of California awarded $1.1 billion. Just to be sure everyone understands, that's 1,000 bundles of $1 million to Caltrans as an initiative called Clean California Initiative to make our freeway system look clean. Okay. With that said, it goes back over a year now, and you say, well, why are our Greater Toluca Lake, let's just stay in our community, but it goes all over LA. Why are these Caltrans areas so filthy? Well, we know they're supposed to be secured. They're not parks. They're not recreation. And they're supposed to be clean. That's Caltrans' mandate. I spent a lot of time reading budgets and reports, and they spend enormous amounts of money on, consultants to create reports. So after you've read and read and read, you get a lot of information and you get a lot of bull in the process. The bottom line is our community has almost in every instance a battle with Caltrans, just like Tess said. She had the neighborhood out there picking up 40, 50, 60 bags of major, not little bags, but what do you call this? Trash bags of gallons and gallons each.
60-gallon trash bags.
Exactly. It's unmanageable. It's one thing that our good citizens are willing to go out there occasionally, but people have to go to work and afford their jobs. Why is Caltrans not on it? To the end, there was that big meeting over at Tess in West Toluca Lake that Tess organized. And there I did say publicly what I had learned, that the zone in where we're located is one of 4, sometimes you call it 5, of the Caltrans Los Angeles County called regions. And we're in the North region. And it's huge, from North downtown all the way up to the North San Fernando Valley. So I don't know how many miles that is, but it sounds like around 20 or 30 miles. How many people are cleaning? 7. 7 people. That's the reason no one shows up, why garbage is all over the place. The way they measure their achievement is how many pounds of garbage is removed a year. So that would be like going to service station, gas station, and them telling you, well, it's a clean toilet because we took away 5 pounds of trash last week. Doesn't make any sense, but the money is always predisposed to where it generates a political contribution, which are large companies, and they seem not to be interested in hiring maintenance people. To that end, where it is right now is I've got an enormous cooperation from our District 7, which is that region. We need to work as a neighborhood council to really, I don't know how you say it, but hold Caltrans accountable. I'm continuing to work with Sacramento. It's under the auspices of the committee of the assembly called the Transportation Committee. And I've written a letter. It doesn't matter to whom. I don't want to take a lot of time tonight, but I've done letters and so forth. I've already received an answer that you probably saw today that I sent to Colby, that is from District 7. And that's a low-level response to a very major problem. It doesn't accept that there are any problems. This guy is super nice. In District 7 are, in my opinion, are not the enemies. They're the ones that are going to ultimately help us. But so we have to be respectful and we have to not make life miserable for them. But no one is fighting for more maintenance people. And I just can't see physically how 7 people are, and there's maybe 3 more, but these are in rehab situations. Caltrans has politically been turned into almost like a charity operation. It's just unbelievable what I learned in the process of spending time reading. But for the brevity of tonight, I would like to say that Caltrans is very much crucial to greater, there's no reason Greater Toluca Lake has to look like the rest of LA if they can't find their way out of this mess. I believe Greater Toluca Lake can, because we certainly have a unique demographic from a lot of other areas. And one of them is we're well-educated demographics and we're generally quite an affluent area. And I don't think we have to tolerate, I don't think we should tolerate this kind of filth. So I would like to propose that the neighborhood council, I don't have solutions, but I did write to Colby today to kind of create volunteer opportunities. We need to get people who report every week on every single, I broke it up into 4 or 5 areas where it's easy for one person to manage. But anyways, we can talk later. But here, I just want to shut up. I want to listen to other people, but I wanted to state the problem is that the Caltrans cannot rely on us as long-term slaves, as people who go out there and clean their property, which is what they're doing. They're calling it Adopt a Highway, and they've got all sorts of other contracts. They're trying to get everyone in the world responsible for their properties. And the last thing that I see on the paperwork that they're making any effort to do is have a maintenance department. And you can hear the problem when I tell you there's only 7 people who are actually, you have to have 2 hands and a back and bend over and a bag to pick up the trash. There are no technological solutions to what's blighting our community. The only thing I can see happening good is 2 things. District 7 of Caltrans, they have my respect. They spent over an hour and a half in a Zoom meeting with me. They're all nice people. They can't say what's really going on. They have to have their jobs. There's political stuff, all that. Nevertheless, our problem is we're not to be sidetracked, in my opinion, that we have a right to have Caltrans properties look good. And we shouldn't relent. We shouldn't accept anything less than clean and secured. Thank you.
So just to summarize, Jonathan, because I'm one of the people who received that proposal or your letter today, and I thank you for that. You are directing the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council to try to assign people to these 5 or 6 freeway on and off ramp locations to report regularly, which I think is a great idea. And for what it's worth, while I don't request weekly reports, I get that from at least 2 or 3 of these locations that you've identified. I'm in West Toluca Lake. I'm also the president of the Residents Association here. And for those who may be unfamiliar with the geography of West Toluca Lake, it's a triangle. And we're particularly plagued here because we have, I think, 3 freeway on and off ramps and embankments, which have are just huge trash collectors. We were out for I think this was our 9th monthly neighborhood cleanup this past Saturday, where I had 35 volunteers. And I won't belabor the point, but the fact that we can collect such an astonishing amount of trash every month is staggering. And by way of comparison, because I have frequently volunteered at Toluca Lake neighborhood cleanups, the last cleanup that I volunteered for in Toluca Lake, which was December or January of this year, 2 people, myself and another one of my board members from the Residents Association, came over, and between the 2 of us, in more than an hour, we filled only 1/3 of a large bag of trash. In contrast to my neighborhood, where we really pile up staggering amounts. And it's a difference between the 2 neighborhoods, and it's a matter of geography. So anyway, not to talk too much about this, but I think it's a really good idea to assign people to those freeway on and off ramp locations, and the ones that are more over in the Toluca Lake area, like the Cahuenga on ramp, I think, and the Pass Avenue on and off ramp. I don't know if those were part of your proposal or not, Jonathan, but I think it's a really good idea, and I thank you.
Let me just be clear so everyone understands what I did. First of all, I'm not a fan of reports. So my idea is not to have people reporting, but rather have 4 or 5. What I did is I broke up Greater Toluca Lake based on the freeway system and the Caltrans lands and whether or not Pass is a problem. If you eliminate Pass Avenue, because if you can eliminate Pass Avenue's exit and entrance, then we're down to 4. So we need only four volunteers, and what they would be doing is on a week-to-week basis, they would take an accountability. For example, last time I was there, the filthiest ramp was actually Cahuenga, the one closest to the village. So it isn't exclusive to West Toluca Lake. It's just literally, if you go down the ramp, we become numb to how filthy these lands are. It looked like the plane had crashed all over. I mean, you couldn't look more than 5 inches without seeing more garbage everywhere for an expansive piece of ramp on the 134 headed westbound when you go down that ramp down to the end of Cahuenga. In any case, my idea was to split up so that we have an accountability so someone is using the Caltrans portal, because this has been a repetitive problem and it continues to be repetitive, that people don't realize Caltrans is not included in the 311. But in any case, that there are 4 people who on a once a week basis are checking and reporting, using the portal to report what's going on, which goes directly to District 7. Now, in my experience, what I can tell you is there's no way District 7 can keep up because they don't have the people. But nevertheless, once we have enough reports and lousy consequences, filthy continued problems, that's when we are in a position for another meeting with, it's Mr. Okereke. He's the District 7 director of the maintenance. I don't think he has the political power to get more maintenance workers, but I do think that this is a massive problem. I feel scammed as a citizen that so much money is being dumped into an initiative, 1.1 billion. This is in addition to their annual budgets. So you can't even imagine how much money we're talking about. It's more than the GNP of lots of nations to get one initiative called Clean California. It is just a complete defiance of any level of common sense I've ever seen. But I realize that it's all about politics and getting reelected. So I only want our community strong and clean and livable, safe. And to that end, I think that the only way at this point now is to have a really close accounting of all of our Caltrans lands. And the way I did that is by dividing it up into, let's say, 4 areas. Each one is rather small. Most just contain 1 ramp on and off, but the Riverside area is the biggest. But we have a couple very, very smart people over there in West Toluca Lake who know their way around those areas, including Tess. But in any case, I think that ought to be our next step. And I sent only to Colby a letter today having to do with those 5 zones in the event he wanted to actually try to collect 4 volunteers who might be dependent upon to do that. That's what I think our neighborhood needs right now is 4 clearly understood individuals, not board members. You're already doing your part as board members, but we need 4 community members, and it could be by where they live. And I gave him pictures of these little areas that literally cover all of the Caltrans property. So I think there you have it kind of depicted what the problem is and what I see as at least the next step forward, because this is going to have to be with Nazarian and with there's an acting director of Caltrans and the committee in Sacramento, because what we see right here in Greater Toluca Lake is the same awfulness that's pervasive outside San Francisco and all around LA, and people are leaving California because of this. And it's just unthinkable, this situation with so much money being spent. They have these programs of beautification where they're spending millions on dumping more concrete into one little area rather than cleaning, which is what the initiative is all about. They don't seem to know the word clean. they know the word beautify, which is representative of pouring more concrete. You're not going to pour your concrete out of this. This is just plain filth. That's how they do.
Okay.
Got-
Well, thank you very much, Jonathan. We have
Okay.
13 more items on tonight's agenda. Obviously, we're not going to get to all of them because it's almost 8:30, and Ren and I were going to close this meeting at 8:30 tonight.
Okay.
So I think we should really be choosing what we want to discuss tonight right now, and the rest we're going to put to another meeting.
Are there any comments from the committee on this before we close the meeting?
No, we're not closing it now.
Oh, okay.
I just was
Yeah, we're going to try and get through the rest of the agenda quickly, but I just wanted to give Jonathan's proposal some airing time because I think it's important. And if you've talked to Colby about it, that's important as well. This is the kind of thing that this month and next month, we will reorganize the neighborhood council, the committees, and I'm hoping that the environmental committee will come alive again. And this may be something that the environmental committee would pick up, but I think Colby or whoever the next chair is will, I hope will pick this up and run with it because I think it's important.
And what do you think of the proposal, Ren?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, finding the 4 people is going to be a little tough, but we've got neighborhood watch. We have other kinds of things, and this might feed into that in a positive way. So, yeah, I would certainly hope it happens.
And I think instructing people, which I'm doing in my neighborhood, the difference between 311 and the Caltrans service request, which is really, really important. I do that all the time. But yes, so that's a good point too. It looks like we have a comment from Sean.
Hey guys, I just had a quick question with respect to the 4 off ramps. Jonathan, could you just this is for the people that didn't get the letter. Can you just maybe identify which of the 4 off ramps you're referring to? Thank you.
I never referred to any 4 off ramps. What it was 4 separate areas that contain all of the land of Caltrans. So when you add all the 4 areas, leave off Pass Avenue, okay? If you include Pass Avenue, it's 5. So we have 4 separate areas. So one would be called Coanga, one would be called Lancashire, one is Riverside, and the 4th one, I'm kind of drawing a blank, okay?
Would that be Moore Park?
Pardon?
Would that be Moore Park?
No, I forgot what I did is I simply looked at the map and studied it in order to divide it up and cover all of the area with as few people, but as concise, so someone can live near it or be, so it makes sense in one way or the other. I don't want to keep it because I know you guys need to move the meeting along, but what I'm going to do, Sean, is I'll send you a copy of certain things that'll make more sense to you. And any board member can share it. I mean, I don't care if you choose to go forward in that direction, but I do think we do need to have a plan on how to deal with Caltrans. Thanks.
May I just add, and I know I want to keep it short, when Assembly Member Edrin Nazarian and his district director joined our cleanup this past Saturday, and they stayed for the whole 2.5 hours plus. They really hauled trash big time. I'm very pleased to have seen them. We got immediate results, and we saw Caltrans, we saw personnel come through the neighborhood just this morning, it was reported. And so we're already seeing some action and some activity that I think is going to yield positive. There will be positive results as a direct consequence of that. So yeah, but I think keeping all this sort of thing front and center throughout the entire district is important. So good plan.
Also, before we leave it, I want you all board members to know this. This is extremely important. Mr. Nazarian is on that transportation committee in the assembly in Sacramento. That means he and the chair of that committee, they have other things besides Caltrans, but that makes him very important and very able to influence others. Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on. Moving on to Ren, 6.1.
Okay, old business, City Planning Department Community Plan status. We'll send out an email to all the board members. There is I won't dig here to find it. The community plan is, they're going to do a Vineland, Lancashire update on that particular part of the community plan. The 14th and the 16th in English, the 15th in Spanish, and those presentations will be kind of a lead-in, if you will, to our community plan. But I think I'd like everybody to watch that if they can. The actual community plan meetings will start in July and August, and they promised me that we will have at least an initial presentation of the plan to our planning committee, probably either July or early August. So we need to, we'll stay in touch with you on that. We get that scheduled. Foreman Avenue under the 134 bridge.
May I just say,
Sure.
Ren, can you emphasize to people here who don't quite understand the purpose and the importance of the community plan, how essential it is to get our input in early and how that works?
Yeah, the plan itself sets the whole pattern for our community for the next 8 years nominally, but the last plan I think lasted 20 years, so it could be around for a long time. It sets the zoning basically, and planning department is reconfiguring the definition of various zones and what you can and can't do in various zones. They're stuck with trying to increase the housing across the city. I won't go into all the political reasons, but anyway, they're trying to go through the community plans and look for any place where they can build more housing, multiple family on single family, currently zoned property, et cetera. So we need to be careful and see what they're proposing. There's some parts of our community that probably could be okay with additional apartment buildings. Other parts of the community that it would really be a problem, and we need to figure that out. Our commercial areas need to be, we've got our Toluca Lake Village plan, specific plan. We need to get that into our community plan so that we can, as we have different projects, individual projects, we can go forward with them without having a big community plan change element. So it's got a lot of things in there, and we have to just be up to speed on it. I mean, ideally, we'll all be happy with the plan, but I don't expect that. I think we want to tweak it and make it right for us, and we have that opportunity, but it's going to be a short window, and then people, 2 years, 3 years from now, somebody will look up and say, who let this happen? Why is this going on? Why are they able to build this without any kind of, vote from the community? Well, this is our chance, so we need to take it. The angled parking, I got word that the city clerk has finally approved the contract for the planners to go ahead and put their design together. And so that's finally moving after 18 months. So
it's approved, Ren?
Pardon me?
It's approved?
That's what I've been told. I haven't actually gotten a call back from the actual architect and design firm.
Wow.
URT, but
okay. So it's approved. Okay.
Yeah, I wish I'd had, once I hear it from the design guy that he's gotten the contract, why that's
okay. But as far as it's approved. All right, that's good.
Yeah. The Gelson's project, 10057, 10063 Riverside Drive. As far as I know, that's out there, and I haven't heard any further word on that.
I can give a quick update.
Good, yeah.
There have been no permits issued for demolition. UPS has been invited to stay a little bit longer. So I have made no fewer than 10. That is, let's see, 10 inquiries to Brad Sherman's office about the status of the post office and still no response. So that's pretty disappointing. I will continue to try, but it looks like there are some delays, and I know there's been some discussion with Krikorian's office on that. But as far as that goes, that's the latest. So no demolition scheduled. Maybe that's a good thing. So
yeah, well, hopefully they're rethinking their plan there.
yes.
6.4 state legislative agenda. I just won't take the time to go through all of these. We're tracking these state legislative things. There's a couple that are heating up, and if I get a moment at our neighborhood council meeting, I may catch us up on some of them.
May I just say, without going into detail, Ren, because I've been tracking most of these, if anybody would like information, you can drop me a line at tess.taylor@gtlnc.org. That's tess.taylor@gtlnc.org, and or any legislation that you think should be tracked. I'm happy to fill you in, and I'm happy to hear any concerns about this list of legislation. Thank you, Ren.
Okay. Yeah, 6.5, the regional housing needs assessment. I could talk for a while on that, but I think basically the state is imposing what they see as a huge increase in demand for housing on the city and other areas. And there's actually been some legal action now against the assessment, because evidently some of the statistical methodologies weren't good. So we'll keep that in mind and keep that. We may get some relief, in other words, on the pressure to increase our housing density.
May I throw in, Ren, that the state auditor, Michael Tilden, has performed an audit of those numbers. For anybody who has an interest, again, you can drop me a line. Thank you.
Okay. Our tracking of projects, how's that coming? Tess, I've been looking at your listing here. Is there anything to add, or?
Well, the question is, do you find it useful? I don't need to do a pointless exercise. This was something requested by, I think, 1 or 2 people, and it's a spreadsheet that I've created that should be on the website. It basically shows where each project is, because sometimes they fall off the agenda and then they fall back on. And if they're known by different names, for example, the 10057, 10063 Riverside Drive project is also the Gelson's project, and it's also known by its city planning name. So the question is, do people find this useful? If so, I'll continue to do it. If not, I won't. Rand, do you find it useful?
Yes, I do.
Then that's all we need to know.
Rand, do you get a chance to look at these?
Do I get a chance to look at what?
Oh, Fred, I was talking.
Fred ignores everything I do.
I think that's right.
Takes care of it all. I don't need to look at it. No,
You should at least look at it, because you're the one who actually picks up the packages when they come into our office box.
Well, just for members of the public attending, this is a spreadsheet that I put together of our planning projects, because they come before us for review and comment and approval, and sometimes they go away, or they're stalled, or they're on hold, and it's just a way to quickly reference what the status of each project is. But if anybody sees something that's missing, let me know. I try to track them all as carefully as I can. Thank you.
And Tess, this is Bob. Thank you very much for putting that together.
Oh,
And,
you're welcome,
yes,
Bob.
it is useful.
Good. If you see anything that needs changed or updated, let me know. Thank you.
Will do.
Okay, the village clock, we're actually getting to a point where we're getting ready to install it. And I don't know, at this point, there's always one more flaw, but at this point, we may actually get the village clock installed. I'm hoping by the fall. or at least by Christmas, let's, maybe worst case, it won't get in until Christmas, but
Okay.
I think it'll come in here in the next month or two. We'll get it installed and go forward with that. 6.8 update on developer COAs.
That's conditions of approval.
Yeah.
I wanted to know why it hasn't been talked about at the general board meeting yet.
What, the conditions of approval?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, that's, we had we put that together, and it never went to the full board. Wow. Boy.
Well, I'm not a board member, so I'm asking. Yeah.
Yeah, it should have gone to the full board. Let me go back and look. Fred, do you remember?
I thought that we talked about it. We'll have to go back into these minutes, but I thought we presented it to the full board.
Yeah, I thought we got it approved.
Yeah, so did I.
Were you at the last?
Let me
general
report
board-
back to you on that.
Were you at the last general board meeting, Brandon?
No.
It was
Okay.
two board meetings ago.
No, I think, yeah, it should definitely be on the agenda. I mean, if we haven't all, I'm sorry, I take pretty good notes, but I'm not remembering it either.
Well, I think it went to the full board a couple of months ago, 2 or 3 months ago.
You too.
We, somebody, probably me, dropped the ball. But I think it did go through. Let's, I'll get back to you, Brandon.
Can you double check that, Ram?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I will. Okay, moving on to new business. 9950 Toluca Lake Avenue, oversized fence request. And we just got the package on that. It's similar to a number of others that we've had where personally feel that, it's building walls and fences in neighborhoods that, aren't yet completely walled in. And it's something we should try to resist, or at least get it modified so that it's a nicer treatment. I don't know. Fred, did you talk to the actual homeowner, right?
That actually was on the different Toluca Lake Avenue project.
Oh.
I'm talking about really quick. We didn't hear public comment on old business, and Jonathan Gregory has his hand up. I just want to see if Jonathan wants to comment here really quick. Go ahead, Jonathan.
I'm so sorry. I didn't put it down earlier and I don't want to take up time. Thanks.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, very good. Okay, so as far as the 9950 Toluca Lake Avenue, we literally just got this packet last week. And when I scanned it and sent it to all you guys, it was like that same day that I got it. So we have not reached out to the owner to give a presentation yet. But I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at the packet.
I did.
It's kind of similar to what everyone else is doing.
Is there a deadline on this, Fred?
I don't believe so.
Well, I'm generally opposed, I'm with Ren on this, to height increases in walls and so forth. I don't see a compelling reason to allow this. And that's what I have to say on it. And if there isn't a deadline, then I say we put it over until the next meeting.
Yes, I think we should.
Yeah.
We can formally invite the owner to give a presentation.
Yeah, we want to have them in the conversation. 7.2, I think we've taken on the putting in the, as you can see, the above referenced project. Do we need more referencing than what's you see there as an example?
No, I think that's probably a duplication on the agenda. It doesn't need to be there twice. I don't think.
Okay, yeah. Status of housing development on Riverside Drive next to the Zanku Chicken.
That's the first time I'm hearing about it. Is there a city planning file number for this?
Well, it's a development
It's already built.
Yeah, this was something that I think that Lee brought up, wasn't it?
Brandon brought it up.
I'm just, so
Was
it's.
it Brandon? Okay, good. Okay.
What was that?
Go ahead.
Oh, it's 2 doors down from Zanku Chicken to the east, on the same side of the street on Riverside, and it's built, but there's construction still on the first floor, and there's no, I don't know, it doesn't look operational. I think there's like a dumpster in front of it. There's traffic cones, and I wanted to flag that. Of course,
Okay, so then this is a question essentially to the committee or to us or to the LA City Planning, that what's up with it. Is that right, Brandon?
Yes.
Do you know what the address is offhand?
Yeah, I sent it to Fred. Let's see.
And there's no city planning file that you've been able to find?
Yeah. No.
I'm sure somebody's got to come up and Zoom us when we type in the address. But
Brandon, this is Bob, and construction projects are often delayed because of a variety of reasons, not the least of which is just money. So I've seen that project. It's all fenced in. I don't see any violations. And I'm sure the developer is waiting on something, maybe just material. So what action should the committee take, I guess, is my question.
I just
maybe find out what's up.
it wanted, yeah, it's not directed towards a violation type of action. I just wanted to, they're in our community, and I wanted to, if there's any assistance or anything. So on street view, there's the doors are boarded up. It's a 10742 Riverside Drive.
10742 Riverside Drive. Well, I agree with Brandon that we can find out what it is. It's not to file a violation, just reaching out to the owner or the responsible party and asking them what's up. And I think even just hearing from somebody on the committee would be useful to maybe push it along a little bit, or just to find out if they've run out of money or a materials issue. That, we live in the community and we appreciate knowing what's going on, especially since it's been boarded up, and these sorts of properties can be hazardous and lend to blight and so on and so forth. So right. Brandon, I nominate you.
Well, actually, I don't have any course of action. I don't know where to go because there's no case file when you look up that address.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, I'll take this on because I'm actually curious on this project too. It's been sitting there for a long time, and I'm very curious about it too. So let me do the research.
Okay.
Okay, and I guess I spoke too soon earlier because we only have 2 more things left on the agenda. Thanks, Fred, for going through them so fast. And now 7.5, which I'm going to let Tess do that because that's your.
Well, that actually ties into 6.1, the City Planning Department Community Plan status. This is the Southeast Valley Community Plan team webinars that are open to all. There are links and webinar access codes that are in the agenda. So people should check that out. They're free. And this is our opportunity to get in early and try to make some changes, or at least understand what's going on and comment upon it before it's too late. So that's item 7.5.
Wow. Okay. Only got 1 more left. Put my foot in my mouth.
Okay. 7.6.
It looks like we have an audience question.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead, Jonathan.
It's a quick question to Ren. Did you find a permit was issued for the installation of the clock? Is that how we know what's happening?
Well, I know it's happening because the Beautification Partners is very involved in the clock. They took it on from the Chamber of Commerce primarily. This initially was a project of the Chamber of Commerce, and they shifted it over to the Beautification Partners. And Beautification Partners has had to store the clock while we went through a whole formal process with the city to get approval to put in the footings for the clock and the benches and all that around the clock. And it's been sitting out there for quite a long time. But the Beautification Partners now, I think, is ready. The last I heard, they were ready to go ahead with the work on it. Put the footings for the clock and get it all set up. And
is a permit required for something like that, Ren? Is a permit required for something?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a whole formal process that they've gone through to.
And are you aware if they have the permit yet, or you just don't know?
My understanding was they were about to get it, and frankly, I don't know, the latest. So it may they got it last week or this week.
All right. Cool.
I'll find out Thursday.
Okay. Excellent.
Thursday, I'm sorry, is our next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, very good. So that brings us to 7.6, which I'm going to hand it over to Brandon on that one. He would like to talk about this. Hopefully, Brandon, 7.6.
Yeah. So this is a motion by Councilmember Buscayuno and Councilmember John Lee. We would amend 4118 to prohibit. Let's see. I want to pull up the actual.
We'll be back in 1 minute. I've already read the motion.
I'm timing you, Tess. 1 minute. Are we going to
pull up the?
Go ahead, Brandon. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
The council file.
While you're doing that, I just want to ask Jonathan if he wants to say anything. Jonathan, you have your hand up?
I'm sorry, I fixed it.
Okay. You do that again, I'm going to sanction you. Got to come and mow my lawn. Okay, here we go.
So it's to amend the municipal code to prohibit sitting, lying, sleeping, and storing personal property within 500 feet of a library. These would create those special enforcement zones that we see in our freeway overpasses and like schools and stuff. I think that this is going too far of prohibiting. It's criminalizing homelessness around a public service like a library. This is different than a sensitive land use like a school, or to clear up a freeway overpass. This is this is of course early stages, but just as you all made a motion to oppose the previous item, I want to oppose this motion, and it was just released, so it's going to be heard at the Homelessness and Poverty Committee.
When will it be heard, Brandon?
I don't know.
Okay.
But the things I wanted to say was, homeless use the library to, it's a basic public service. Access to computer or other facilities or what have you, other types of resources that are central to at a library. And the question of where to put their stuff in the meantime is just, I think, is just an overreach there. And yeah, so that's my
Can you put the text up again, please, Brandon?
Ron, you had a comment, your hand's up.
Yes, I'm opposed to Brandon's motion, and libraries are definitely sensitive places. Children go there all the time. I'm opposed to Brandon's motion.
Um,
Okay, and Tess, you have your hand up?
So thank you for bringing this to our attention, Brandon. So I just want to make a few comments. So the idea of criminalizing homelessness, that phrase is used a lot, and nobody's criminalizing anything. That's not, I think, what this is about. It's as I said earlier, it's the impacts. Okay. Now I am a very, very, very heavy library user. I love, books. I'm there all the time, and I go to different libraries around town. And this isn't prohibiting anybody from using the library or from being in the library. And certainly there are a lot of homeless folks, at least from what I can gather, who are in libraries, and that's fine. They're, generally, as long as people aren't unruly and they're respectful, that's great. And we're going to see more of that during the summer months because it's so hot out and the libraries tend to be air conditioned. So I have no problem with folks in the library, but a large problem does exist outside of at least 3 of the libraries that I use. And that is the loitering, sitting, sleeping. And even that wouldn't bother me so much as the trash buildup. And this is particularly the case at the Studio City Library and at the North Hollywood Library. So I don't have an objection to, I would support this motion. And I would instead offer that storing of personal property, that we look into locker situations or something like that. And I would also ask Brandon, how does this benefit stakeholders? Your opposition to this motion?
Stakeholders?
Yeah, I mean, we're here representing the stakeholders of Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council, so of the district anyway. So how does this, how does this benefit stakeholders?
How does the opposition to this benefit stakeholders?
Well, I told you everything that I believe.
Okay.
I think the homeless are stakeholders in our community. They don't just show up here. Some live and work here, go to school here. And I believe that this is criminalizing homelessness. So, but you've made your point, so.
Okay, well, I would respectfully disagree that this isn't criminal.
I get it.
Okay, well, but it isn't. So it's the impacts that are the problem. That's what this is about.
I don't know how to raise my hand with the small tablet that I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, Brandon, I would ask you please to keep track of this, and when there's a file number attached to it, it's going to go to committee according to what you just said. When there's a file number attached to it, then that's a worth. I feel that's a very worthwhile CIS coming from the council. I agree with Ron. Children use these libraries continually. There's no reason why they have to be in fear or walk around garbage or people. And I have total sympathy for these people, but I can understand the reason for this motion, and I would support that motion very much. I don't use the North. I use libraries all the time, and I don't use the North Hollywood Library for that reason. I go to the Burbank Library, which is a shame.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the North Hollywood Library, it's gotten really, really bad at times.
No, I won't go, and I'm an adult. I would never bring a child.
That's too bad. It was very nice when I was a little kid there. Jonathan, you have your hand up.
I'm unmuted.
You're
Yes.
unmuted. Yeah.
Okay. Brandon, I want you to know that whenever people come here with any sort of a feeling or not a feeling, a belief or disposition, I'm watching because I want to make sure that everyone feels welcome and willing to debate their point. That's the important part, is not whether we're right or wrong or we win or we lose, but that we're all respectful in the course of doing this. So I like that you bring how you feel on the issue to the platform. What I do want to add is what happens for me. I've chosen I've lived in libraries. I've chosen places to live according to libraries. At that big meeting Tess organized in West Toluca Lake, there was a stakeholder resident who stood up and spoke, and it was about his daughters not able to walk to school anymore. I raised 2 kids, and I would not allow children to be in the midst of transients gathered around doorways and things like that. And that's because my ability to judge what is safe and isn't safe isn't reliable when the rules of when people are destitute. They're doing things that you can't judge. So the threshold for being able to evaluate what is safe and what isn't safe is thrown into disarray. And a library is a sacred place in my world. It's access to information, just like you believe it's access for a transient, and they need a place to leave their stuff. The more we normalize people living in the streets, the worse I feel about who we are as a society. The problem itself is that people are homeless on the streets. And that's why I keep saying, where are the detox? Where's the psychiatric centers, the medical centers, the shelters, the affordable housing, and the prisons? Because of those 6 destinations, that's where these people who don't have a place belong. One of those 6, not laying in front of a public place where children have to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. And what else? We have another hand up. Oh, no, hand went down. Any other comments on that?
I move that we vote. Move this to a vote. I make a motion that we move this to a vote.
Okay.
Any firsts or seconds?
I will. Can I first? Am I allowed to do that?
I think so.
Can somebody repeat the motion?
Yes. Brandon, why don't you read your motion? It looks like Lee has a comment.
Okay, go ahead, Lee.
Sorry about that. I pushed the wrong button. I'm sorry.
Okay, there we go. That was a mistake. Okay, now, the only thing that I want to say about this is that what comes to mind is the freeway underpasses during COVID, of how those got so full of belongings, I guess you could say. And if we were to allow this in libraries, it could turn into what the freeway underpasses look like. Just a thought, but I don't think I would oppose this. Anyhow, that being said, do we want Brandon to read the motion?
I didn't make the motion, but the thing on the agenda says to oppose. And I'll just say one last thing, that this ordinance 4118 pushes people into, different places of the city. You can't amend this ordinance to include every damn place in the city, and then they would have nowhere to go. Then that's criminalizing homelessness. That's what I believe. Lord knows, I already know what everyone else thinks. So
wouldn't they go to shelters downtown or other shelters in the valley?
No, there's you get cited if you refuse different things. You are not allowed to be in certain places in these special enforcement zones. Look at the signs that are around.
Isn't it not really? They can be allowed there. They just can't put their personal belongings to store it there and spend the night there. They can still go there. I just can't store their stuff there.
That was the question I was posing.
Yep.
Is where would people put their stuff? You're not allowing the use of public service, a public service like a library.
A library, not a storage unit.
Yeah. And
let's submit a what do you call those neighborhood purpose grants? Let's build storage, a neighborhood purpose grant. Let's build some lockers then. to put some stuff.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And by the way,
I want to stop saying no to things, and
well,
we're not saying anything about homelessness other than we don't want them here and we don't want them there. And anyway,
well, Brandon,
Wait a minute, I disagree. Brandon, you're wrong. We voted billions, I mean, at least millions, hundreds of millions of dollars for homeless shelters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're not saying nothing. We've built places for them to go. They're there. The word on the street is they don't want to go, as Sean, I think, related that one of his neighbors said. So I think you're wrong, Brandon.
Thanks.
If I can, this is Bob, if I can jump in. That motion from Buscano was very, very short and to the point. And I think if I asked for the definition, I mean, what are we voting on? It sounds like either we are supporting this motion or we're not supporting this motion. Is that it? So somebody can simply state, we support as a neighborhood council the motion put forth by Representative Buscano. Let's vote on it and move on.
Well, there's still a tiny bit of discussion, and Brandon feels very strongly about it, and I don't want him to feel dismissed. And Brandon,
I can count, Tess. It's 9. Let's move on. It's
well,
fine.
Brandon, I want to be helpful. Okay, come with me and talk to these guys under the underpass.
Good, Tess. We're good.
Okay, fine.
All right. Well.
And just so you know, apparently there are enough tiny homes in our district for the homeless in our district. This is according to the council district office. Now, I don't know if that's changed since I got that information. The population certainly fluctuates. So there are places for people to go. If they choose not to go, then what? All right. Do we acquiesce to people who refuse services? This is a larger discussion, but perhaps we could move this to a vote.
Yeah, and we should talk about it more in the future. And I would just want to thank Brandon, by the way, for bringing this up. And I agree with you, Brandon, that it is a problem. I don't think it's criminalizing them, but it certainly is a problem. And I just want to thank you for bringing it to our attention. Anyhow, so we are going to. I mean, the idea of this was to oppose the city's motion, right?
Correct.
So do we even need to do that if we're not going to oppose it?
Well, I think it would be good to vote and how everybody votes on this committee for that proposal.
Yeah.
What proposal? What is the motion? Let's get
the motion. Let me just read it. The motion. Recommend that GTLNC oppose the motion by Councilman Buscano and seconded by Lee to, and it says it would amend ordinance, et cetera, prohibiting homeless 500 feet from a library. So the language is not clear to me. I know that I see this as all part of the mayoral election at this point. Buscano is, very tied in with one side, and anyway, won't get into all that. But I'm going to abstain on this because I'm not sure the way this is written how, whether we're for it or against it. So I'm just going to abstain.
Well, I think the language is pretty clear, so I would reject that that GTLNC recommend this. So I would vote no on this motion 7.6 as it appears on the agenda.
Same here.
So no is a support for this.
No, yeah, no is
this
to support what the
No.
city has done.
No,
The
no.
no vote is to support what the city's done.
Right. So you.
Okay, let me read it to be very clear. Okay. Recommend that GTLNC oppose the motion by Councilmember Buscano, seconded by John Lee, Council File 20-1376-S3. This would amend Ordinance 4118 by prohibiting homeless 500 feet from the library. I vote no, that we do not recommend opposition to this this proposal. So is that clear, Bob?
Well, it says we vote to oppose, did it not?
Yeah, so when you oppose the motion, you're basically not opposing the proposal by Buscaino.
We're making a distinction between the motion on our plum agenda and the motion by Buscaino on the city planning of the city council agenda. So
Yeah.
we are voting on the item on our plum agenda to oppose, recommend that we oppose this motion by Councilmember Buscaino. So
A no vote, we wouldn't.
yeah, I vote no, that we do not recommend it. That's it. Are you clear now, Bob?
Yeah, I'd rather change the motion to say this council supports the motion.
I
And then
agree
it's
with
yes.
Bob. I like
Okay.
Bob's motion. I like
Yeah.
And
Bob's
then
motion.
then it's a yes or no on
Okay,
whether you
yeah,
support
know
it or
what?
not.
That's a good idea, Bob. And then we can make a CIS out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, all right, so then we support.
But wait a minute, why don't we amend it first? We vote to amend it, and then if that passes, then you can vote on the motion, which would then say,
Do we have to?
opposition, we support. So we recommend GTLNC support the motion by Buscaino that would amend the ordinance by prohibiting homeless 500 feet from the library.
I would support that.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes, here too.
amendment first. All those in favor of amending the motion?
Aye.
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 Okay, sounds like that passes. Okay, then the second vote would be, the motion itself now reads, GTLNC supports the motion by Councilman Buscaino, seconded by Lee. It would amend ordinance, et cetera, by prohibiting home 500 feet from a library.
GTLNC by council member. Yes. Okay, so why don't you take the vote, Fred?
Okay, Ren.
Abstain.
Wait, we didn't have a first and a second, did we?
I first it, Tess.
I second it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ren, I'm sorry, you abstain, okay? Fred says yes. Tess,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Brandon,
No.
Lee,
Abstain.
abstain, okay. Who else do I have left? Did I-
Robert.
Yes.
Robert, yeah, yes.
Oh, yeah, Bob. Bob says yes. Okay. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 yeses, 1 no, and 2 abstains. So motion carries. And with that, Lee Jamison, you have your hand up. Do you want to say something?
Goodbye.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
The reason I abstained is I don't have a problem with homeless being there if they don't bother people, but the kinds that are like drug dealers and harass people, I have a real problem with. So I'm kind of mixed up how I want to vote on that.
Yeah, but it's to store all their stuff and spend the night there. Want that?
If they could store their stuff, yeah, spend the night. Again, the ones that don't bother people, that'd be cool. The ones who do and the drug dealers, no.
So you would be okay with them storing things in a public library on the outside?
In a container, appropriate container, sure, like a shed.
Okay, in a proper storage. Okay, so not just on the grass and behind the bushes.
Oh, no, of course not. That's
Proper
shanty.
storage that you guys brought up earlier that we could maybe give a grant to. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm not inhuman. I just, I don't like drug dealers and people who are a problem there. But again, if they have to store their stuff, it's got to go somewhere and make it safe where it looks good, but not the people who go around causing trouble.
I think we should talk about that a little further. Not tonight, but that's a good topic to solve. I like where that's going, this direction. Geez, thank you, Brandon, for bringing this up because we're brainstorming now. We can maybe come up with a solution to this. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, I don't see any more hands, so I guess I will Adjourn the meeting. It's 9:05. Okay, not so bad. I think we did about 9:05 last month too, so not so bad. Okay, you guys, nice to see you.
Good night,
everyone.
everybody.
Good night.
And we'll see you next month.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Good night.
Okay,
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
bye. Bye, bye, bye.